Back from Meet the Teacher. Back, because I would never miss Polapalooza. Bianchi waits all week for this one, the scratch to his pole itch, and we'll get into that in a second. But, Mike, I have a very important announcement to make for you and for Jaden Grimes. It is my birthday today. Jesse was right, and you two bozos who I work with were wrong. Jaden was off by 5 months. I did not recently have a birthday.
Didn't you just turn 40?
Yeah, a year ago. Exactly a year ago, I turned 40. I'm 41 years old. This is my Dirk Nowitzki year.
Well, we really didn't need Jesse to tell us, because you would have told us anyway.
I was planning on it. That is not.
Wow.
That's not why I'm not here. I'm not a take your day off for the birthday guy, but because I like when I get to go on the air and tell everybody. How else are you supposed to know? I work with these two; they don't even know. So, yeah. Wow. Thank you very much.
Wow.
It's my birthday today. I'll be going to Kobe's Steakhouse when we're done with today's show. Great way to get a little onion volcano action. White sauce.
I like Kobe's Steakhouse. I always liked it. The kids always liked it because, obviously all that fire, but I always liked the food at Kobe's.
Yeah, they do it
I
up.
went to Kobe's. for my birthday for 13 years straight because the kids eat free on their birthday.
Yeah, and they give you those hats, too. They give you the chef hat, and sometimes they'll throw a piece of shrimp in there, too. Free shrimp on your birthday. All right, Jaden, hit the music. Let's go. Time for...
Polapalooza.
Thought I wasn't going to get it there for a second from Mr. Mike Bianchi. All right, let's get to it. We've got 5 polls. You can vote on them still on our Twitter account at 96.9 Game On. Poll question number 1. With an Orange County task force trying to decide where it should put its TDT money, overflowing with cash, which of these projects will contribute to tourism in the community most? 4 options for you. 1 is a bigger convention center. That's what we need. New baseball stadium, which is what we want. Upgraded UCF facilities, or a nicer Dr. Phillips Center. Try and stay objective on this, Mike, because I'm curious what your opinion is on this objectively.
Well, first of all the things you're talking about, they're like a fraction of one day of what Disney draws. All right, so I don't know that any of those. I think people who are in town, for instance, to visit our theme parks, right? Will they go to a baseball game? Yeah, I think they will. But they're already in town. Okay, I don't know that people are going to. There might be some Yankees fans who make a trip down to Orlando when the Yankees are playing down here, but mainly so they can go to the theme parks and take in a baseball game. So I don't know that any of the projects actually lure a great amount of tourism into the community.
Is that the? I don't think that's the purpose, though. I think because if that were the case, then you just give the money to Disney and Universal. Let them take care of it.
Which is probably where that tourist tax money should go.
Well, I think they don't need the money. Okay, they're doing just fine. But I think it's to enhance the experience of people in the city and the tourists that visit. So I do think that we should think of it through that lens. For the people that are already here, are you enjoying your time more with these things?
I would say then the convention center is already big enough. So we're going to get convention ears here because it's already humongous. I'm going to say either baseball or the Dr. Phillips Center would be the ones that enhance tourism the most. And because I'm a sports guy, I'm going to go baseball. It's going to be down in the tourist corridor, the new baseball park, if they build it. So I think it will be easy access to the tourists. So I'm going to go baseball here.
Yeah, we don't need. I think we can take a couple of years off of investing into the convention center. They've done quite well over the years. So you still want to make sure you stay on top of it, but I think they're doing okay. Anybody that works there that disagrees, feel free to hit us up on the text line at 50857. I've never gone to a different city strictly to go to another college's facilities, so I would check that off the list.
Yeah, I don't think the new softball field at UCF
Right.
or the new track is going to enhance the tourism. But hey, if they can get the money, good for them.
I don't go to other cities so that I can see shows. That seems like a New York, Las Vegas thing. I do go to other cities to watch baseball, though. I'm going new baseball stadium. 44% of the vote agrees they're on baseball. Upgraded UCF facilities at 26%. We got some homers that are voting on this poll. Clearly. 15% on bigger convention center, and then Dr. Phillips is at the bottom.
Hey, little Johnny, you want to go to a track meet at UCF after Disney?
They painted new lines. It's awesome. Bright white. Poll question number 2. What is the biggest storyline amongst the state of Florida NFL teams during this training camp? I will save expanded thoughts on this for later on in the show when we dig back into this topic full bore. But the options are the Bucs contract squabbles, Travis Hunter's progress, or Malik Willis's development. Where do you vote?
No, there's no question. It's the Bucs. The Bucs are imploding right before our very eyes. Their best defensive player and their best offensive player both unhappy with the organization. In fact, one of them says, "Trade me. I don't want to be here anymore."
I would love to come up with an argument against that, but this should be a runaway, and I'm honestly surprised in looking at the voting that it's not. 49% of the vote are on the Bucs and their contract squabbles. That's number 1, followed by Travis Hunter's progress, 35%, and Malik Willis's development at 15%. But this should be like 99%. This should be one of the most lopsided polls we have ever had. On to poll question number 3. Are you more or less interested in baseball down the stretch of the season after the Dodgers pulled off the trade for Tigers ace Tarek Skubal? More or less?
I grew up a Dodgers fan. I was a huge L.A. Dodgers fan when I was a kid. Steve Garvey, Ron Say, Dave Lopes, that bunch. But now I'm sort of anti-Dodger with all of the money they've spent, all of the superstar players they have. I'm actually going to be rooting against I'll be more interested just so I can root against the Dodgers. I'm relishing the fact that they've lost 6 in a row now. So I'm going to be more interested.
I would say less interested after they pulled off the trade. Once I saw it, I laid a big wager on the Dodgers to win the World Series at plus 145, set it and forget it and move on to football season. Yes, they're struggling right now. I'm just not fazed by it. I think this team is too talented. We did this last year with the Dodgers. It was like, oh my God, they're struggling so much. Here they are struggling 8 games up on second place in their own division, and this is them at their worst. Just wait till they get guys back and Skubal feels comfortable and things tighten up in the postseason and no one can hit. But the Dodgers, who have this insane lineup, I'm not worried about them. I would say I'm more interested, I will say, and you know this, Mike, over the last couple of years, I've gotten more into baseball than I've been since I was a kid. This is as close as it's come since that boyhood love of the game of baseball as how I feel right now. But I can't say that
Ever since the commission of Hard Rock Bet, you've become a much bigger baseball fan. No question.
I never said why. I just said that it was happening, but that is definitely the case. 65% of the vote agree with me. They say less. On to poll question number 4. Where does Mario Cristobal rank amongst college football's top coaches in the country? We had this topic on the show yesterday. Curious to see where the vote falls. Top 3, which is where I had him. Top 5. Top 10, which is more in Bianchi's range, or outside of the top 10. Am I right? Yeah. You had him inside of the top 10, but you did not have him as a top 5.
I think I had him 7 or 8. Yeah, 7 or 8, something like that. So, yeah, I have him in the top 10. No question.
And has that changed at all as you've had a chance to sleep on it and let my wonderful argument marinate a little bit?
No, in fact, I wrote a column today essentially saying, hey, didn't Miami learn anything from Florida State about giving, long-term contracts to coaches who have one good year? So, no, nothing's changed.
The voting looks like a staircase, by the way. Top 3 is 4%. Top 5 has 10%. Top 10 has 22%. And outside of the top 10 has 63% of the vote.
That's ludicrous. That's ludicrous.
It's like you can't even ask people in this state college football questions because if it's not your team, you just torpedo the poll.
Can we just be unbiased here?
If you're going to be biased, don't vote, okay? Leave it.
I mean, he was a good coach at Oregon, won 10 games a couple of times, won a couple of conference championships at Oregon, okay? And now he's gone to Miami and turned the program around. So let's be unbiased here when we're voting.
Okay. Now, I need everyone here to put their honesty cap on, okay? And I want Jaden's vote on this, too. How much of tonight's first NFL preseason game, the Hall of Fame game, between the Cardinals and the Panthers, will you watch? All of it? Some of it, which is like a half of football. The opening drive, just to get that zest of football back, and then you'll turn it off. Or you will watch none of it because it's the Hall of Fame game. Mike, where do you vote?
I'll probably watch more than the opening drive, but probably not much more. That's the closest to how much I'll watch. I might watch half of the first quarter, maybe the first quarter, but probably no more than that.
I'm not going to rule.
I'm just being honest.
Well, good. That's what we were angling for. And I think that's how most people are. I think most people will watch the beginning of the game and then immediately lose interest and move on to something else. You want to get that feeling of that football broadcast back, but that's really all it's about. I honestly I know that I'll watch a half of football. I would not rule out watching the entire game as a possibility, but I'm not locking myself into it.
Who doesn't want to watch Carson Beck versus Kenny Pickett?
Oh, that's going to be the good part of the game. Just wait till it's Haynes King versus Keaton Slovis.
I will be watching every single down of this Hall of Fame game tonight.
Every single down that Carson Beck is in.
Yeah, well, maybe their QB2 gets hurt and Carson Beck has to come back in. You'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be watching every single down tonight. I will be at a sports bar with a beer in my hand watching Cardinals-Panthers on a Thursday night. What more could you ask for?
Well, the listeners disagree. 38% of the votes say none. Some at 28%. Opening drive, 23%. And all at 9%. So that is the minority vote. That right there, Pola Palooza. Up next, we'll dig into some of your texts and talkbacks as we hear from the game heads where, I don't know, maybe you want to wish someone a happy birthday, 50857. We'll be back in a bit. Happy birthday to me.
Game on with Bianchi and Kravitz. We'll
Happy
be back
birthday!
right after
I knew it was
this.
your birthday.
Anyone who's played around the golf in
Thanks,
Florida knows
dude.
and your drought just got better with Bianchi and Kravitz.
My favorite was Hawk Harrelson for the Chicago White Sox. He had my best one. You can put it on the board. Yes, that was the best one.
I love a good old Hawk Harrelson.
Hawk Harrison.
This is our daily list today, a good news, bad news situation. Longtime college basketball announcer Dick Vitale says that he has made positive strides after announcing in April that he had been diagnosed with cancer for a fifth time. Fifth time. That's insane. And with him continuing to battle cancer, we were asking you for your top sports commentators from your childhood. Can't mention Chicago broadcasters, Mike, without mentioning Harry Carey here. Take me out to the ball game.
Somebody texted it in. My favorite announcer was Harry Carey. I watched and listened to him every day. He would tell it how he felt it was. If he thought the umpire made a bad call, he'd let you know. He especially got better as the game went on and drank more beer.
That's why my special power was Budweiser. And the more I had, the better I was. So by the seventh inning stretch, your boy was loaded. Some of my other favorites, John Madden is just the best color commentator, I think, in the history of sports broadcasting. The way that the energy that he brought, his unique perspective as a coach, the way that he would make things so basic and understandable for the layman viewer, which I very much was when I started watching football. He taught me football, and he did that for a lot of people. He's definitely on that list. Vern Lundquist, when you think SEC football, big time CBS game, middle of the day, hard not to hear that voice in your head. Those are a couple of my favorites. And I think a guy that doesn't get enough credit for the job that he did as a commentator, this was not that long ago, so this wasn't necessarily childhood stuff, but John Gruden, I thought was phenomenal in the booth, and I really miss him on Monday Night Football.
Oh, no question. No question. He was good. I thought he was a much better announcer than he was a football coach, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think some people would agree with that.
Did you hear who my number one was?
I did not. I was not able to hear that.
The great Gordon Soley.
Nice.
Gordon Soley was my hero when I was a kid. I mean, championship wrestling from Florida, 1 o'clock every Saturday. We were glued to the TV for that 1 hour. It was unbelievable.
Gordon Soley, one of the best, and he was the idol of one of my favorites of all time, my favorite wrestling broadcaster of all time. It's not even close, is the great Jim Ross.
Oh, yeah.
I had a chance to meet several years ago and was just such a stand-up guy, so easy to talk to. He had just lost his wife and still didn't cancel his appearance. He had it was like 4 appearances set up right before WrestleMania was in Orlando several years ago, and he still made every single appearance, and you could tell that he was hurting emotionally, but that was really cool. So that's one that he'll always have a special place for me. What about Chris Berman? Does he count, or because he didn't do games?
Yeah, he counts. I mean, yeah, Gordon Soley didn't do games.
That's well, he did. Yeah, he did. Wrestling is real,
matches.
Mike.
Yeah, that's true. Back then, I thought it was. Yeah, absolutely. So here's one that probably could have been on my list as well. I remember Keith Jackson always saying, "Oh, Nelly, oh, Nelly." Keith Jackson was, he was one of everybody's favorites. Also from our text line, the first few years of the Orlando Magic on Sunshine Network with Chip Carey and Goose Gibbons were the voices of Central Florida. I wasn't in Central Florida at that time, so I wasn't into the Magic back then, so I don't really remember watching much Chip Carey.
Yeah, I wasn't here yet for that, so I will rely on other people for the memories of that. Someone texted in, how about Dennis Miller, LOL? That was the worst era of Monday Night Football broadcasting. Putting a
I
comedian in the booth.
I like Dennis Miller, and I also like Tony Kornheiser. I like them both.
What?
Yeah, I liked them. Sorry, I like Dennis Miller and his esoteric, sophisticated humor. Absolutely.
At least he
You
was
just didn't get it.
sophisticated. Now you get the alternate broadcast with Pat McAfee just yucking it up with his boys.
Right.
Bunch of clowns.
Well, there was another one that brought back a memory for me. It was we were just mentioning Skip Carey. I do remember as a kid watching the Braves and Skip Carey and Pete Van Wieren. Somebody texted those two in. But Braves baseball back then was, national because it was on the Superstation. So yeah, Skip Carey was awesome. And Pete Van Wieren was good, too.
It's a ran in the Carey family. Someone texted in General Deckerhoff. I think they mean Gene Deckerhoff. But that's definitely one of those voices. For two big fan bases in the state, that is as identifiable a voice as you will find.
No, and you're right. And I was telling, Deckerhoff, I was telling Primetime. One of the guys on my list was Otis Boggs. He was the longtime voice of the Florida Gators. And back in the day, you didn't get the games on TV. That's how you consumed your team, was you listened to them on the radio. You didn't get, again, we got one baseball game a week, and we got, the college games weren't on TV back then. They were just on the radio. You got a couple of college games a week. That was it.
Isn't it funny that
it wasn't the Gators or the Seminoles back then, believe me.
Back when there was only one baseball game on a week, you watched more baseball than now when you can watch every game every night.
Right. Absolutely.
It's supply and demand. Up next, we are going to dig into a Thursday edition of Mic'd Up, sliding that in. You got to hear what the Purdue coach said. We'll get you that coming up right after this.
Mills. You good?
Yeah.
Game on with Bianchi and Kravitz.
No days off for that summer heat. The good news is no days off over at Mills Air either. And the truth is we know when something is wrong with our unit almost immediately. No time like the present to join the club of cool customers. If your AC is blowing warm air, making strange noises, or just can't keep up, it's time to call Mills, your local experts in fast, honest, and reliable air conditioning service. They're certified techs repair all major brands, including Carrier systems. They offer upfront pricing with no surprise fees, and they will treat your home like it's their own. Whether you need a quick repair, maintenance, or a complete system replacement, they're going to get your home feeling cool and comfortable fast once again. Call them today, 407-277-1159, online at millsair.com. Call them today and be their next cool customer.
This is the Bulldog, Mike Bianchi. You know what? Sometimes the best vacation
names in the game. It's time for Mic'd Up.
Got
Bright light city, gonna set my soul, gonna set my soul on fire.
Oh, set it on fire, baby. We're going to set you on fire with some Mic'd Up. Brought to you by Adventure Boat Share, one of my favorite places. Unlimited hassle-free boating. You don't have to own a boat. One monthly fee, you can go boating anytime you want with any kind of boat you want. Bass fishing boat, pontoon boat, sailboat, ski boat, whatever you want. Check them out. AdventureBoatShare.com, baby. Let's start with the mic'd up clip that Kravitz teased coming into the segment. Purdue AD Tommy McLennan, the new AD, talking about the athletes who should want to come to Purdue.
Every recruit, every current student athlete will hear this message repeatedly. We are here to win championships. If you don't want to win championships, go to Indiana.
What?
Jaden Grimes brought up something before the segment. He must have been talking about basketball, right?
Well, then you have to say basketball. They just won the championship in the biggest sport in college athletics.
Yeah, but at Purdue, basketball is king. So he's probably talking about basketball.
Well, I hate to break it to them, but they're not winning titles either. So
At least they're better than Indiana.
that's it. They're better than Indiana, but that's checks notes. Whoops. Sorry.
Right. Wait
I
till
meant to
Kurt
say
Signetti-
Indiana State. That's my bad.
Even if he was talking about basketball, Kirk Signetti's going to beat the hell out of their football team this year, just for good measure.
Absolutely. I can't wait to hear Kurt Signetti's soundbite on that clip.
Nick Saban talking about the bill before Congress, the Save College Sports Act, and it appears it's gaining momentum and might even be passed. Here's Nick Saban.
Well, look, I've been involved in this for months and months and months and years, actually, in trying to get some legislation together that would enhance the future of college sports in a sustainable way. I think where we're at right now is not really sustainable. We needed some kind of legislation that would give antitrust protection so that lawsuits wouldn't rule the day, which is what's happened to this point. You know, people blame the NCAA, but the NCAA couldn't enforce their own rules. I do think that this probably it's not perfect, but it certainly addresses 80% of the needs, and I would encourage all the people in Congress, whether it's Senate or House, to support this bill so at least we can get a start on making progress to protecting college sports. Not just football, not just basketball, but women's sports, Olympic sports.
Bravo. Bravo, Nick Saban. I mean, we brought up a story during the headlines segment, Kravitz. You weren't here, but it was about Tommy Castellanos, the former UCF and FSU quarterback. He's suing the NCAA now for his 5th year of eligibility and to get into the transfer portal. Okay? He's suing for both. Okay?
And he'll probably
Saban's
win.
right.
And he'll
Nick
probably
Saban's right.
win.
Yeah, the NCAA can't enforce its own rules. Every time they try to enforce a rule, they get sued.
Yeah,
Some
and I like
judge.
what Nick Saban said. Okay, so the bill might not be perfect, but at least it tackles issues. Aren't we trying to fix college athletics? At least it starts the ball rolling
Right.
in that direction instead of Bill getting stuck in litigation and back and forth meetings and all of that where nothing gets accomplished. I like the idea of just that's the way that I like to operate. You just rip the Band-Aid off, get it done, and start, and then go from there.
No question. Here's our president, Donald Trump, talking about if he were a WNBA coach.
And I'll tell you what, if I were ever, I'd be the greatest women's basketball coach in history. Because I don't like LeBron James. I like Michael Jordan much better. But I'd go up to LeBron James. It doesn't matter. I'd say, LeBron, did you ever have any desire to be a woman? because what I'd love you to do is star on my team that I'm building up. I will have the greatest team in history. They'll never lose. Nobody will come within 70 points of this team.
Well, what is he talking about?
I've figured it out. I have figured out Donald Trump. Please park your cars, sit down where you're at.
What is he? What's he saying?
Donald Trump is not. He's not so much. He's technically the president of the United States. He's a stand-up comedian. If you were to take the fact that he's the president away from the things that he says, and it wasn't the leader of the free world speaking into a microphone saying these things, what he says is objectively funny. But it's when you then add back the layer that he's the POTUS. It is troubling to hear that in a microphone. I'm surprised that he didn't stop there. I would change his name to Labrina James. No, that's not what he says. But, I mean, is that crazy? The fact that you're like, did you actually say that? I cannot believe
He
that
must
this
have
is the
been
world we
talking
live in.
about the trans aspect of it. Is that what he was
Well,
talking
of course that's what he was talking
about?
about.
Okay.
Come on. Like we've got NBA players that are like, yeah, you know, the NBA thing didn't work out. Let me go get a sex change, go to the WNBA. Like that's ever happened. Get out of here.
Here's Brendan Hayward, former NBA player, sort of criticizing Paolo Banchero's development.
When I watched him in high school, I'm like, man, that guy's good. And then when he got to Duke, I'm like, man, that guy's good. When he got to the league, I'm like, man, that guy's good. But his game has been the same since high school.
Yeah.
It's been catch, hold, jab, jab. Then I get into a move, dribble, bounce, pump. Like, if you're going to be that ball dominant, you can't average 22 points per game and shoot 30% from three. If you're going to be mega ball dominant, you got to be Luka.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. If you're going to be a super ball dominant player, can't average 22. We ain't winning like that. If
It's
you're
not
going to
only
be
22. You got to make everybody else better.
Okay, yeah, you got to make everybody else better. But if you're going to be mega ball dominant, you got to be one of them ones. All I'm saying is I'm not sure if one summer is enough for him to go from what I saw last year to one of them ones. Now, maybe 2 years from now, I might be able to say that. But right now, Orlando, pretenders.
Ravs.
Ouch.
Talking about the Magic.
Well,
I don't think Paolo's going to become Luka in 1 year, but I do think what people still forget, is he 22 or 23?
He's 23.
Okay, he's still a very, very, very young player. Let's not forget Giannis wasn't a superstar right out of the box.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing.
What, 4 years, 5 years?
It is. It definitely took him, I would say, about 4 years before he. I don't know. I would have to look at the stats, but it took Giannis a few years before he became Giannis for sure. The confusing thing about Paolo is that he has already shown that he can be that guy. Paolo Banchero in 3 years in the postseason has averaged 27, 29, and 26 points per game.
Right.
That is a playoff average in his career with now a good sample of work of 27 points per game, 39% shooting from three-point range over 3 separate playoff series. He has shown that he can be that guy, and isn't it awesome that he can access that when it matters the most? I would rather have him have that ability in the postseason than the regular season, but where he ends up getting criticized is that he doesn't access that part of his game enough in the regular season. It's the consistency, I think, that is holding him back. But you can't say that Paolo Banchero hasn't developed into that player when on the biggest stage he's shown you that he is that player. He just has to do it more consistently.
And that is mic'd up.
Coming up right around the bend, we've got Greg Allman, who covers the Bucs for Fox Sports. He'll check in on the biggest conversations going on at training camp. What's life like without Mike Evans? Why isn't anybody getting paid? And is anybody happy about it? We'll check in with Greg coming up at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. Don't go anywhere. Summer is here. The bugs are out. Zap them with Burn Pest Control. Family owned and operated with over 30 years of experience in the termite and pest control industry. Contact Joe directly, 321-297-7985, or go to burnpest.com. Mike, I don't know how this got here. There's a birthday balloon behind my head. Do you see this? I'm not even sure how that happened. What is this?
Kravitz, we've already announced your birthday. You want to announce it every segment? Is that what
I'm
you're
not
doing?
announcing it. There's just all of a sudden there's a balloon behind my head. I don't even know how this stuff happens. It's crazy. Going to Kobe's Steakhouse later. By the way, I saw that Orlando City, they kind of did this under the radar. They changed the name of their stadium. Did you see this?
I did.
So it is not Inter & Co Stadium anymore. It is Inter.co Stadium now.
When I saw this, I thought, are they finally going to take my recommendation and call it the Purple Palace? I thought, because that's what I call it. That way I don't get all confused. I just call it the Purple Palace.
Right. Because they have changed the name.
What it should be called.
And instead they changed the and for the word dot. So you didn't quite get what you were asking for, but this stadium has changed names more frequently than I think any stadium in the history of sports stadiums.
Can you go through the names of the stadium?
I would need more time. I don't think I can.
What about just the last name?
Exploria was the last one.
Yeah, Exploria.
30 seconds.
Well, Inter.co, and Exploria. Those were the last three.
I think that's all it's been. And then it was Orlando City Stadium, right?
Purple Palace in there.
Well, the Purple Palace.
Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, it was Citrus
Camping
Bowl.
World Stadium. We got Greg Allman who covers the Bucs coming up in just a bit. But first, let's get the latest from Fox Sports Radio. Back in 60.
only storyline in the state of Florida is for, not the only, but by far the most important storyline is what's going on in Tampa Bay right now, because they are, in my mind, it looks like they're almost self-destructing. I mean, Vita Vea, you know all the ins and outs of the where these guys rank as far as league-wide, but isn't Vita Vea considered still one of the best defensive tackles in football?
He's considered that, but I think the reason why he's had trouble getting the contract that he wants is that last year, statistically, was not a good year for him. So that's part of the reason why they've neglected to give him whatever extension that he's looking for. Last year was a down year for Vita Vea. The Bucs' run defense wasn't what it has been in the past, so trying to get paid off of what is considered a down year for you typically isn't going to work out in your favor. It's the same thing with Baker Mayfield. Now he's trying to get an extension right after his worst season since he's been with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they're making prudent financial decisions while these guys rightfully want to get paid before their careers are up.
Okay, but I think an argument could be made that their two best players, their best player on defense and their best player on offense, one of them wants to be traded, and the other obviously isn't happy with his contract situation and feels underappreciated. And then there's Todd Bowles, who we just heard from, who needs to win this year, Kravitz, or he's going to be out of a job. So the vibe just doesn't feel very good in Tampa right now, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it doesn't. And it didn't feel good before we had these contract issues. If you think about what the vibe was before you even knew that Baker Mayfield felt disrespected or that Vita Vea wanted out. Mike Evans left. Levante David left. Those are two of the established veterans of this franchise gone. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They're on to their third or fourth offensive coordinator in the last 4 years, and this was not a positive reason. They lost Canales because he got a head coaching job. They lost Liam Cohen because he got a head coaching job. Then they hired this guy Grizzard, and he stunk. Emeka Egbuka was great in the first half of the season. Go look at his stats in the second half. He fell off a cliff. Bucky Irving dealt with mental health issues and was not productive when he was on the field. Baker Mayfield was injured often last year. That team struggled down the stretch. They went on a significant losing streak at the end of last year. Todd Bowles, it's almost a miracle that he kept his job. So, yes, the vibes weren't good, and now we have this. So the vibes are terrible. The only thing hoisting up the Bucs is that their division stinks.
I mean, we always talk about culture in sports, and does this team have the right culture? Does that team have the right culture? I'm starting to wonder about the quote-unquote culture of the Bucs. First of all, I don't really know what culture is, but you mentioned it. I mean, Vita Vea, he says he wants to be traded, all right? That's never good. Baker Mayfield, unhappy. And one thing Baker Mayfield said last week when he had that press conference was, unfortunately, and I'm paraphrasing, unfortunately the Buccaneers have a history of this, talking about not paying their quarterbacks, right? Unfortunately, the Buccaneers have a history of this. There's that. Then I was reading the quote from, I'm having a brain infarction.
Give me the world that he lives in. Maybe I can help out.
Mike, the receiver, the Hall of Fame receiver who just went to the 49ers.
No, his name would be Mike Evans.
Mike Evans. I was reading the quote from Mike Evans, all right, about the 49ers. And he said, it's great to be here. They've got such a great locker room. And he was just praising the 49ers. And he didn't rip the Buccaneers, but if you were a Buccaneers fan and you read that, you were like, wait a minute. They've got a great locker room. It's great to be here. He was talking about the culture and things like that. And Mike Evans wanted out. The Buccaneers offered him, I think, more money to stay, and he left. Is that right?
I don't know. I don't know that for sure. I think they at least offered him the same amount, and he left. But he definitely wanted to go elsewhere. I think he wanted to try something new and wanted to give himself a better chance at winning a championship, which the Bucs are not really set up to do. I do push back a little bit on the Bucs' unwillingness to pay money. They did just give Baker Mayfield a contract that was north of $100 million. They did offer him $50 million a year. It's not like they didn't offer him any money. Baker just didn't get the length of the deal that he was hoping for. They made Tristan Wirfs the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history. They made Antoine Winfield the highest paid safety in NFL history. This is not an organization that's not willing to pay guys. To call them cheap, to me, it's like calling the Magic cheap. It's just not accurate.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you can go all the way back to Doug Williams when Hugh Culverhouse wouldn't pay Doug Williams.
But it's such a different world now. It's so hard to compare the willingness to pay guys now compared to the past. I think it has more to do with the player. If Baker Mayfield is a slam dunk top 5, top 10 quarterback, they'd pay him. He's not. It's debatable that he's there, but he's not slam dunk.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I think the Buccaneers made the right decision by not paying him. But I'm just saying, when you hear what Mike Evans is saying, when you hear what Baker Mayfield's saying, obviously Vita Vea when he says, I want to be traded, that just doesn't sound like the type of place that the players enjoy. Sorry, it just doesn't.
Isn't it amazing how the Tom Brady aura came in, changed the way that the Bucs were viewed, looked like a stable, respectable organization. He leaves. There's a little bit of the mask of Brady that was still left, the remnants of it, and now it's starting to wash away. They've now taken too many showers, and they no longer smell like Tom Brady.
Yeah, now they smell like the old stinky Buccaneers that they were before Brady for 2 decades. I mean, they were bad for a long time. Jameis Winston, what was the guy? Josh. What was the quarterback?
Josh Freeman. They had Mike Glennon. Remember him?
Yeah, I mean, they were a terrible organization until Brady showed up, and then for 3 years they were good, and now they're fading back to the old Yuccaneers. Yuck, yuck, yuck. The yucks.
Where I would find myself in a tough situation if I were a Bucs fan is that it's like you finally found a guy that's better than all of those names other than Brady that you just mentioned. Baker's clearly better than every Bucs quarterback since Brad Johnson other than Tom Brady. I think that's pretty safe thing to say. But should he get paid simply because the organization has been bad at getting good quarterbacks? That's not really the reason that you should pay guys. The Bucs need to do what I said they should do a month ago when we were force-feeding our audience NFL content, is that they need to admit that they are rebuilding. And they refuse to admit it, and it's creating a lot of awkwardness. If they would just admit that they're in a rebuild, they wouldn't have to deal with these problems. But they're trying to rebuild quietly and then not pay anybody, and it's creating awkward tension in the locker room.
You know what the problem is? The Bucs probably would have rebuilt if they were in a real division. But they're in this bad division, and they're like, hey, we can win this thing.
And they're not wrong. By the way, they're still favored to do so. They're still as awkward as we're making it sound like the Bucs are going to go 4-13 this year. They're still favored to win the NFC South. What that's worth is up to you and your friends, but they are favored to win the
It would be like
division.
putting I don't know. It'd be like putting Florida State's football program. Florida State, which hasn't been good, obviously, over the last. It would be like putting them in the Sun Belt and Florida State saying, hey, we're pretty good. We can win this. We can win this conference. So when really they're the same, they're a bad team, but you put them in a lower competition and they think they're good. Maybe that's what the Buccaneers are.
I like that. I like that analysis. I'm just picturing Mike Norvell going, I'm not actually sure we can beat Coastal Carolina. That's my concern. We got more Game On coming up. We talked about the Bucs. What about the Jags and the Dolphins? I'm going to try and sell Bianchi on a top storyline for the Jags that has almost nothing to do with Travis Hunter after this.
Hard Rock.
home, let's send you to the studio for the premier afternoon sports show in the state of Florida. Game On with Mike Bianchi and Brandon Kravitz.
Mills.
Love is a burning thing.
It is a Throwback Thursday here on Game On. We're asking
Nothing
you.
better than a little Man in Black, is there?
So I can hear this playing at Kobe's Steakhouse later tonight as they're singing me "Happy Birthday to You" with my mountain of fried rice, filet mignon, white sauce. Is there any place better to go on your birthday than Kobe's Steakhouse? Mike, I forgot to mention it is my birthday today. I'm 41.
I don't think it's filet mignon. Quite frankly.
What?
Huh?
You think they're charging you for the sirloin?
I think it's top sirloin you're getting.
I have gotten the sirloin before. It's slightly more chewy, but
Yeah.
you
Oh,
might go
you
all
can
out.
order filet mignon? You can order filet mignon?
You can order filet mignon and you can order
Okay.
sirloin. If you taste them side by side, there is a difference. Now, is it actually filet? You know, that's debatable, but it's definitely better than the sirloin over there.
Okay.
Our text/list question today is your throwback broadcaster that you love the most, or a list of them. We'll take it, 50857. I wanted to see if I could sell Bianchi on a storyline for the Jaguars that does not directly involve Travis Hunter as the most intriguing one in Jacksonville during training camp.
Okay.
We agree, the Bucs, I mean, it's all about the contracts. It's all about the strife, the disrespect, the trade requests, and all of that. Okay, so that we'll table that. The Dolphins, it's all about Malik Willis. Is he set up to fail because they don't really have anybody for him to throw the ball to? But by all accounts, he looks great in camp, and that's what we're paying attention to. For the Jaguars, while yes, there's intrigue surrounding Travis Hunter, I think the biggest storyline to follow with Jacksonville is where does Brian Thomas Jr. slot in among Trevor Lawrence's top options? Parker Washington is ripping it up in practice. He ripped it up last season. He was the number one guy for Trevor Lawrence. Jacoby Myers carved out a very real role for himself as the move the chains guy on third and long situations. They're going to get Brenton Strange involved. They just paid the guy, and he was involved in the passing offense before he got hurt. And then this is where Travis Hunter plays some factor in this discussion, is that if he plays any receiver, you're going to throw him the ball. The guy is super talented. Where does that leave the guy that they took 23rd overall 2 years ago? Brian Thomas Jr. is starting to feel like the odd man out in this offense.
Yeah, and deservedly so after what he did at least early last season where he couldn't catch anything. I think it's going to be up to Brian Thomas Jr. where he fits in. If again, I haven't read a whole lot about him in camp. If he gets into the preseason games, I don't know how much he's going to play, but early in the season, if he's still dropping balls, then he is going to be the odd man out. But I don't think anybody denies that he, as far as athletic ability, besides Travis Hunter, he's probably their most athletically gifted receiver, right?
Yes, but he's got to establish a real chemistry with Trevor Lawrence, because hidden in the great rookie season that he had was the fact that his best games came with a different quarterback. His best games came with Mac Jones, not Trevor Lawrence, and he put up these insane numbers, especially for a rookie: 87 catches, 1,200 yards receiving, 10 touchdowns. Then he gets Trevor for a full season in, by the way, a better offense with Liam Cohen calling the plays. 48 catches, 700 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's what he produced with Trevor Lawrence as his quarterback. If it's not working with the Golden Boy, who turned into an MVP candidate at the end of last year, see ya. His leash is going to be so short this season if he is not the guy, because they have other options, and they especially have other options if Travis Hunter sees the field, which is debatable, but it could very well happen. You said that you haven't been reading much on Brian Thomas Jr. in training camp. Let me give you a blurb that I found of a day-to-day breakdown of the wide receiver room in Jacksonville. This is day 4, belonged to Travis Hunter. Day 3, it was all about red zone scores from Jacoby Myers. Day 2 was domination from Parker Washington. But it was day 5, became Brian Thomas Jr. day. I guess they focused on getting him the ball, and he earned some high marks from the folks that are covering the Jacksonville Jaguars. So everybody seemingly has taken their turn in practice, Mike, but it's hard for me to get overly excited about training camp hype and highlights and all of that because everybody looks great right now.
You know, one of the problems with Brian Thomas Jr., you were talking about his chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. Brian Thomas Jr., again, athletically gifted. He doesn't have the greatest hands, all right? We know that, right? He doesn't have the greatest hands, and Trevor Lawrence, for a lot of his career, has not been the most accurate of quarterbacks. So maybe Brian Thomas Jr. is a guy who needs the ball put right on the money for him to excel. And Trevor Lawrence, I'm sorry, Trevor Lawrence doesn't put the ball right on the money all that often, or at least he hasn't until the end of last season. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I think you are. And there's another thing to consider for Trevor Lawrence as to why the chemistry could be off with Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr.'s best plays were sort of broken plays where he was able to get past the safety and whoever the quarterback was throw it over the top, and Brian Thomas Jr. makes a big, long play. And that's why we all loved him in fantasy, because not only was he putting up stats, he was doing it very quickly and in bunches. Trevor Lawrence was able to cut back interceptions over the last 2 seasons. He had 12 last year. He had 7 the year prior. He's trying to be more of a caretaker because that was a big problem for him really early on. First 3 seasons, he was a disaster in terms of throwing interceptions. I think Trevor Lawrence, he loves throwing the ball over the middle, and I think he's trying to take care of the football more, and that doesn't lend itself to throwing YOLO balls down the field to Brian Thomas Jr. That's more of a, let me target the possession guys and just keep the chains moving. He feels like a different quarterback. He understands I got to be more of a game manager, and Brian Thomas Jr. doesn't really fit that.
Interesting. I can buy that explanation.
Okay, sold. Up next, Bet It or Forget It hits the airwaves. Top stories in a flash right after this.